Well, 2020 has been a year, and what a more fitting way for it to finish with someone like Charlie Brooker and Annabelle Jones, the creators of Black Mirror, taking a look back and creating a mockumentary with fictional characters looking at the real, current events that occurred this year. Starring a magnitude of famous people, it's something that personally I couldn't wait to see. So, after watching it, I thought I'd take a look and give my thoughts on the one-off special. So, how was it? And is it worth watching? Well, let's find out. Before I go ahead, make sure you go over to my Twitter @BrainPilot_ and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. So without further ado, I'm BrainPilot, and here is a review of Death to 2020. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers, so watch with caution. The story. The story is something that is kind of self-explanatory. It's all about the year 2020. So we knew what the show was going to be about before it even started. With everyone saying how 2020 has been like an actual Black Mirror episode, it seemed fitting that Charlie Brooker himself would release something that would take a look back on the year. This isn't something that's out of the ordinary for the Black Mirror creator. Usually he does a screen wipe where he takes a more comedic look back at the year, sat in front of the screen and commenting on recent events. Death to 2020 essentially follows the same premise, but there have been some slight tweaks. For example, I loved the use of the fictional characters being interviewed. Many of them represented things that had happened in 2020, such as the racist soccer mum, and the politician who would deny everything despite seeing video evidence. This allowed us to get a full dramatization and exaggeration and have characters that represented everything that happened in 2020. The structure of the story is something that I thought was done really well, starting right at the beginning and literally going all the way through to the end of the year was definitely the best way to do it, as it felt like a linear timeline. I thought the cutting between fictional characters, the use of Lawrence Fishburne as the narrator, Charlie as the interviewer behind the scenes, and the clips from the actual events this year painted the picture of how the year had been. With regards to the writing, I didn't find it completely laugh-out-loud worthy, but I'm not sure if that's what they were setting out to achieve. It's a comedic look back, meaning that Charlie is trying to dig out some of the ridiculous elements of the year and put them at the forefront of screen to remind us of how silly many things have been this year. Also, with the main focus on the pandemic and how some governments were slow to respond. That was one key thing that was throughout the show. I think the story set out what it wanted to achieve in providing a slightly comedic look back with exaggerated fictional characters. The show wasn't anything we didn't know, hence why you can't really judge the story, only the execution. And I think the execution was done well. One thing I also liked was at the end of the show, where they had to record some prompts for 2021. That was one thing I did find quite funny. If you're coming into this show expecting to watch a Black Mirror episode, you're not going to get that. It couldn't be further away from a Black Mirror episode. But in its own right, the story was executed quite well, and bears a resemblance to what Charlie Brooker used to do with his screen wipes. But you can tell this one had way more of a budget. The cast. The cast in this show consisted of many standout actors and legends at the top of their game, so I was very impressed with the talent that Charlie and Annabelle got into the show. Whilst they didn't have tons of screen time, it's worth taking a slight look at them. Samuel L. Jackson. Samuel L. Jackson played a reporter who was being interviewed on events from 2020. To be honest, the character felt like it was literally Samuel L. Jackson being interviewed. There wasn't any need to understand the character's past, and there were no motives, as it was in the moment. So I would say it just felt like Samuel L. Jackson himself. Lisa Kudrow. Lisa Kudrow was an interesting character. She personified what many politicians were like this year, lying, going back on their word, and not answering any questions with a straight answer. I thought she really nailed this performance. Hugh Grant. Hugh Grant visually transformed into an aging historian, and I thought he did a brilliant job. When questioned about things he felt uncomfortable about, he would turn aggressive, and his racist side would come out. I haven't seen Hugh Grant in anything recently, but this performance showed that he is a very good actor. Keary. Joe Keary played a new influencer-type character, and he nailed the personality to what you would expect a millennial that has come into a lot of money from uploading videos to YouTube would be like. I've not seen him in anything other than Stranger Things, so I've not really got much to compare, but he was entertaining in this show. Kristen Milano. I thought Kristen Milano did a great job at playing her character. She was a racist soccer mum and represented people that are stuck indoors and get indoctrinated by the things that they read on social media and groups. She was a disbeliever in many things, and the character was very well written and performed. Diane Morgan. Diane Morgan is someone that I've seen in a couple of shows before, and she does tend to play just an average person. So it seemed fitting that she was playing one of the top 5 average people that they could find. She represented many of us during lockdown, being stuck indoors, bored, and reaching the end of their tether. She had some funny lines, and I really enjoyed her performance. Leslie Jones. Leslie Jones was a character that it felt like you didn't want to get on the wrong side of. She was aggressive, firm, and sounded like someone who stood up for what she believed in. I really enjoyed it when the camera would cut to her and we'd get to see more of her. Kumail Nanjani. I thought this character was okay. This was one that I don't feel I really got any benefit from. Almost if he wasn't in the show, I wouldn't have missed him. He didn't have much screen time, so maybe that's why. Tracy Allman. Tracy Allman played the Queen, and I thought this was where some funny moments came from. Whenever the Queen is being played in a comedic sense, it tends to be quite funny. Tracy Allman did a great job in nailing the accent and also the punchlines. Samson Kayo. Samson Kayo as a scientist was a great character. He provided a lot of silliness, which is something that I feel the show needed because we were looking back on extremely serious moments. Compared to the other characters, he had a lot of the funny moments, and I think he was a great inclusion to the show. Final thoughts. Overall, I think Death to 2020 was an interesting watch for sure. As mentioned, you know what it's about when you go into it, but with the fictional characters and the writing of them, it brings to light the moments that some of us forgot about and also how ridiculous many things were this year. Lawrence Fishburne narrating allows you to re-enter 2020 on January 1st and tells the perfect story of just how crazy 2020 has been. It's been a year that's put a lot into perspective, and I think the show highlights that. It's not groundbreaking television, but it provides an interesting and entertaining 70 minutes of television. So, there you have it. What I thought of Death to 2020. Did you enjoy it? What do you think? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.